Hello, I'm Gary York, author of Corruption Behind Bars and Inside the Inner Circle. I wanted to talk to you for a few moments about video visitation and what your thoughts are on this new and upcoming way on how inmates in jails and prisons are receiving visits. I was recently interviewed last month in December 2017 by reporter Shannon Sims of the Guardian newspaper, Washington Post, New York Post, and she posted an article on inmate visitations, the fading in-person visitation versus video visitation. She had seen a couple of my articles in corrections1.com and contacted the editors of Correction 1 and asked to contact me, and we did an interview, and she placed it in the article on December 17th, 2017 in the Guardian newspaper, which is also part of the United States and Great Britain. It's a worldwide newspaper. And she asked me some questions about what I thought about video visitation. And I explained to her that I realize there are two sides to video visitation. There's the security side, and why security is liking and using more video visitation, but there's also the family side with the inmates' families' concern for not being able to physically be in the same room with their family members. I explained to her that for security, it is beneficial to help stop contraband coming into the prison. And I explained to her that when visitors come to the prison to visit their loved ones, not all of them, but quite a few of them have attempted to smuggle contraband into the prison. And there are several ways that they can smuggle the contraband in during the visitation. Some have a one-time hit because they're allowed when they enter the prison to give a hug and a kiss, and they hide the contraband in the back of their mouth, and then when they kiss their loved one, they transfer the drug, and the inmate is high during visitation. Others smuggle drugs in their body cavities and have places that they leave the drugs in visitation for an inmate orderly or a trustee to pick up and transfer back to the inmate later on that night at the jail. So yes, video visitation does help slow contraband. She then asked me during the interview what I thought about officers that help in introduction of contraband. And I told her that I have investigated cases where officers were involved in the process during visitation of the inmates getting into the prison. And this is not a good thing, and we must eliminate those officers because the honest, hard-working, good correctional officers are placed in danger, and everyone in the prison is placed in danger when you have drugs smuggled in the prison. We all want our loved ones to come home at night. We want our inmates who are incarcerated to come home safely one day to their loved ones. We want our officers and our prison staff to come home safe every night to their families and be able to be home and enjoy their families. So it's a very controversial issue. One of the things that she was concerned about, and she wrote about it in the article, she wrote about the concern that families are having that they're losing that in-contact, in-person visit, which is much more important to the inmate and the inmate's well-being. And of course, we all love to see our families up close and personal, but another reason that security has gone to video visitation in some places is because of staff shortages. There are not enough staff to cover the entire visitation and the needs of the institution. So by having video visitation, they can now take these correctional officers and move them onto the compound to work in the dormitories or the dorms and outside grounds, inside grounds, and all the other necessary places that are needed for security within the prison. So it helps with manpower. But her concern was that that affects the prison, but what about the inmates' families? And I explained that we must protect the people in the prison first. That must be the first priority. And we must make sure that contraband such as drugs and weapons do not enter the prison system. We want to make sure that the inmates' family members are safe when they go to sleep at night in the prison, and not high on drugs and fighting and getting hurt by another inmate who is high on drugs or has a weapon smuggled in. So you have to kind of weigh out both sides. Do we want everybody to be safe and secure, or do we want to continue with in-person visitation and run the risk of more contraband entering the prison? So I'm asking everyone out there, whether you work in the prison system or do not work in the prison system, please put a comment at the bottom of this YouTube video, and please subscribe to my YouTube, because we talk about all types of different things, and I do training videos, and I talk about both sides in my videos. I talk about the correction side, I talk about the inmate side, and I talk about the inmates' families, what they have to go through and endure. But everyone has to stop and take a moment sometimes to say, wait, what is more important? That our loved ones come home safely from their prison sentence? One of the studies that was done, and it was noted in Shannon Sims' report, was that 600 U.S. facilities approximately now have video visitation. And of those 600 jails and or prisons that have video visitation, many of them, 74% of them, have gone 100% video visitation. I did tell her in my interview with her, and she did quote me on most of the things I said, and some of the quotes she left out, but we realize she's a reporter. She takes information from different people, and they use what they need or what they want to put in their report. So she didn't put everything in there that I said. But I did tell her that the visitation is sometimes very dangerous, and we have sexual relations that go on at visitation. We have small children and families that are just there to visit and not do anything wrong, and their visitation is interrupted by contraband, visitors trying to have sex in the bathrooms of the visitation, or oral sex underneath the tables of visitation. And my argument was that it's also very bad for children to see this type of environment, and video visitation eliminates that. And it still allows the families to visit with the inmate, sort of like a Skype. It's a Skype visitation. And the thing about it is, a lot of the family members, she explained to me, are very upset that some of the calls for video visitation, or Skype, shall we call it, are about $12.99 a minute. And I did tell her, and I believe she quoted me in her article on this, I did tell her the one thing I do not like about video visitation is that some private companies are going to get rich off of the inmates' families, and I realize some of the inmates' families are indigent and don't have enough money to pay for these videos and things like that. So it does hinder the families in some ways. Excuse me, that was just Anthony Ganji that texted me there from Tier Talk Radio. I'll get back with him as soon as I'm done here in just a second. But anyway, I just want to throw a few things out there. I know I jumped around a little bit. You know, both sides have a good argument. The security side has a great argument. The families have a great argument. But until we can get enough manpower in the prisons, and until we can stop or greatly slow down introduction of contraband during visitations, video visitation, in my opinion, is not a bad thing. But remember, there's a lot of family members out there that are totally against it and do not like it. And I would like to hear from both sides what your thoughts are on this topic. And thank you again. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, no matter what you do for a living, and learn about corruption behind bars, my training videos, and my true prison stories, and topics like this, video visitation, and new topics that will come up in the future. Thank you for listening. I'm Gary York. Good night, and be safe, everyone.